With this episode, we're talking about Q4. We're going to go over predictions, margin, PO, value engineering, marketing tips. It is going to be the best episode of the Operators Podcast.
My caution with Q4 has a little less to do with tariffs and a little more to do with the housing market.
Black Friday is where that Q4 is going to be where you really start to see this hit.
I'd rather be wrong on the down than wrong on the up when it comes to inventory. Like, I'd rather not have too much.
The more you try and optimize for top line and growth, the more you compromise on margins and CAC and all these other things. And you just can't in this environment.
With this episode, we're talking about Q4. The optimism's back. It's pumping. Undoubtedly, the first half of this year was as hard as the first 6 months of COVID, but the first half of the year is over, and now we're going to talk about Q4. So I have a list of stuff we're going to talk about. We're going to go over predictions, margin, PO, value engineering, marketing tips. It is going to be the best episode of the Operators Podcast, and it's brought to you by Fulfill, the #1 sponsor, Northbeam, Postscript, Rich Panel, Ceres Analytics, 5 softwares I use, 5 softwares I pay for, 5 softwares I will be paying for in Q4.
Hey guys, this is an ad for Fulfill, one of the partners of the pod, and you're going to get to hear from one of the best operators, Chad Janis, talking about his experience implementing Fulfill with Grooms. So Chad, you mentioned that like scaling operations has been a huge part of your success. How have you scaled? What partners, softwares have you used? Fulfill's a partner of the pod, I think, that you use. Tell me a little bit about your experience scaling with them.
Yeah, it's probably about 6 to 8 months ago, we realized that we needed a ERP. We built the business off of like Google Sheets and primarily like Google Sheets. And then we had some like internal engineered solutions that were helping us out. And we were deciding between NetSuite and Fulfill. And frankly, when I was an investor at Summit Partners, we had encouraged, I don't think we were aware of Fulfill at the time. I mean, this is back in 2021, 2020. And so all of the brands that we ended up investing in, we would tell them like, hey, we're going to onboard a NetSuite. And it would take a year. We had a person at our investment firm whose job was ERP implementation. Like literally he would spend a year with the brands, helping them with ERP implementation. And it was a slog. And we'd always come to the end a year later after we invested in this business. And they'd pop up and be like, okay, it's mostly done correctly. Here are some things. But literally all this guy did was helping brands with ERP implementation. And, we're growing so fast that wasn't an option for us. Like, I don't know what we're doing in a year. I can't take a year to put an ERP into our systems. And so we were chatting with the Fulfill team. We onboarded with them. I think it took less than 2 months. So speed was highly critical here. Our COO sat down with them. He spent most of the time onboarding and going through that process and felt really compelled with our ability to do it. And it was a precursor for us to be able to do some of our own fulfillment. So historically, we've used 3PLs. We now do a lot of our fulfillment in-house. So absolutely critical part of our system. As I mentioned in the pod, we also do production in-house now, part of our manufacturing process. And so Fulfill is critical for all of that. Every system has like little things here and there, but the speed at which the Fulfill team, when we have an issue, pops in and solves it, I can guarantee you're not getting that from another solution. So they've been great partners, critical to our growth, and will continue to be critical to our growth into the future.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Great partners help you go fast, and they help you open up capabilities that make your business more valuable.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Operators Podcast. We have me, Matt, Mike. It's August, but we're going to be talking about Black Friday. You're probably shocked right now. You're like, guys, let me enjoy Memorial Day. Let me enjoy the summer. But no, I'm here to bring bad news. How are you preparing for Black Friday? Episode title, 2 working titles. Will Black Friday be fire or will we go down in flames? Or it's not even August and it's already time to talk about Black Friday. One of those is the title of this episode.
Or
Matt,
just Merry Christmas. Ha ha. Welcome to the life and consumer.
Yeah. Matt, how are you doing, man?
Dude, I'm great. I just got back from a little family vacay. Dude, I don't know if you know this. We have this thing in Canada called Calgary Stampede. It is like a massive rodeo like just massive outdoor show.
Yeah, the world's biggest rodeo or something, right?
It's freaking insane. So I haven't been in like 15 years. But I brought my daughter, who's 9, and this was like, what a party for kids. And there's so many friggin' Americans there, like so many Americans, so many Europeans. There was just, it's just nuts. You got to go check it out.
Okay, is it over?
It's over. It's like 10 days long or 11 days long. Calgary's not a big city. It's like 1.2 or something like that. But I think the population doubles for
Wow,
this.
sick.
Like the city cannot handle it. But it is for kids, or if you like rodeos, which I'd never really been. It's a lot of fun. I get like this like chuck wagon races and all kinds of like horse and animal stuff. It's a great time. So I'm good, man. I'm coming off a high. I watched my kid have a riot for 3-4 days.
Awesome, dude. Okay, so next year, operators meet up in Calgary.
Yeah, for Stampede, we're gonna go to the rodeo.
I thought that was what we did when we come to Oklahoma. You can't be stealing the rodeo also. You've got so many built-in advantages.
You're back at the office, dude. I don't think I've seen that background in a while.
Well, the reality is,
You have a job?
yeah, guys, contrary to what some may think, I actually do still work, but our house, we had an interior decorator when we made it, and so they're doing a bunch of pictures for a photo shoot or something, I don't know, a magazine or something. So I was kicked out, and I'm back at the office.
Oh no!
Yeah, exactly. I'm slumming in the office.
Well, Matt just told me how awesome his week was. Mike, how are you doing, man?
Oh, I mean, it's a mixed bag, like, as you guys know, dealing with family stuff. And one of the things that comes with being in the stage of life that I'm in is that you just start to deal with the reality of your parents getting older and getting sick. And that is it's just hard. And I try and talk about this stuff even as we talk about the business, aspects of our lives, that it's a big part of your life is how you're managing and caring for the people around you. And so that part's challenging, like my wife's mother's in really bad health, and there've been a couple points that have been pretty touch and go, but the business side of it's actually been really encouraging. I think I probably have more things that I'm excited about right at this moment than I can remember in a long time. But it also is pretty sobering, when things in your personal life are tough. It puts things in perspective that, you want to build a big business and you want to be ambitious, but then you're also reminded of the things that really matter. And also like how limited your ability to impact things is sometimes. Like in business, like if I want to change something, I feel a lot of agency to be able to make it work different or to change the numbers around. But there's some things in life that don't work that way. So mixed bag, but good to be with you guys. This is like therapy for me.
Oh, Mike, dude, that's so sweet. Well, I'm wishing you all the best, man. Yeah, the older I get, the more you realize we're all playing the same game. You know what I mean? It gives you a lot of sympathy for everybody. And like the old wisdom: healthy person has a million wishes, sick person has one. Right? So it comes for us all.
There's a quote I saw. I thought it was great. That health is a crown that can only be seen by the sick. And I thought, man, that's a great insight into life. And it's so true. When you're feeling good, like you just don't think about, oh, I'm healthy and I'm grateful that I'm healthy. But then the moment that you're not healthy or that somebody around you is not healthy, you stop taking it for granted. And so maybe that's probably the thing that comes with as you get older and you go through seasons of life with people around you, is it does make you a better person and a more aware person. Whereas when I was younger, it was easier to just be ambitious and for lack of a better term, just very self-centered. And I think that this is also the reason why community, I think, is so important in our lives, is that being a part of a community helps you to develop, empathy and sympathy and some of the things we've talked about on the show. And we try and do that when we talk about even business results, that like if you're in this game long enough, you're going to have a year that's awesome and you're going to have a year that's terrible. And that's actually great. That's great because you're going to be a much better mentor. You're going to be a much better friend to other people in the industry when you've experienced highs and lows. So, yeah. Anyway, it's a good point, Sean, and I think it's helping me to be a better leader and a better person. But that doesn't make it easy all the time.
Okay, so You know when you're sick and your nose is stuffed up, and then you just start thinking about every time that your nose wasn't stuffed up and how you long for those moments. It's that, but on a way bigger scale. And you're like, I'm never going to take breathing for granted ever again, right? But then tomorrow you feel great and you do. All right. The episode. I get accused of being a doomer all the time, right? But at the same time, people tell me I brag too much and I'm an so I am the one person who's gotten both sides of that. Sean, you're too negative, and Sean, stop hyping yourself up. So Mike, the first thing, because this takes the longest amount of time, right?
Yeah.
Your business probably operates all of our businesses will have different peaks, right? So like my peak is very much the week before Christmas. Right. Mm-hmm. So my biggest day on Amazon will be 3 days before Christmas. Right. So like I have a peak that is really post Black Friday. Matt, I assume you're way more Black Friday focused, right? Yep. Like, real big focus there. We're basically the same peak, but then Mike's peak is probably September. So Mike, that's because most of your business is happening in retail. Retail has to buy and set stores ahead of everything else. PO should be flowing soon. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Is it going to be a good Q4?
Well, so obviously there's going to be a lot of nuance to what I'm about to say, but I was glad we were doing this episode because what I think this episode is going to illuminate is some of the blowback that's going to come from all the craziness around tariffs in April and May. There was this initial, I was one of them, reaction of like, man, we're going to have a COVID style supply chain disaster due to this. That hasn't materialized, which is great. Like, let's just say that it's great. I was a doomer there and it didn't happen. And I'm glad I was wrong. But those tariffs are real. And at the very beginning, I guess I'll give a little bit more context before I hop into it. Have had a conversation with several people that are pretty high ranking in US government. These are like congressmen, senators, that kind of crowd. And early on in the trade war stuff, it was a question of, is this meant to be punitive against China? Are we trying to reshape where we're trading and the percentages of who we're buying from? And it really looked like that was the case. And then as time went on, I think that it became obvious, and I had a pretty high ranking person basically confirm this exact thing to me, that this is just a tax. Like, interestingly, our primary manufacturing was based in China, and to kind of mitigate the trade war, they spun up manufacturing in Thailand. And as of today, things can always change, but as of right now, the tariffs on Thailand are going to be higher than China, than mainland China. And so like that investment for them is not looking great. And it's just an example of like, hey, this didn't end up going after China. This was just adding a tax. The reason why I say all that is that when you add a tax to the supply chain that way, it has to get passed on to customers, because it was such a large tax that companies certainly can't bear it and aren't going to want to bear it even if they could. And so we're going to see that matriculate into pricing and how people approach marketing. And I think Black Friday, I think is where that Q4 is going to be where you really start to see this hit. So how am I seeing it already? Well, one thing that has happened, when you work with wholesale clients, you agree on a wholesale price. And this isn't like your website where you can just change the price, and give them 5 hours notice and then they change it. Part of it's just logistical. Like, they have to go out and they have to, change out a billion tags in a bunch of stores. And that's costly. You got to pay labor to do that. So they don't want to do that very often. But the other piece of it is that they just don't want to, that they want to negotiate a price, and then they want to be able to have visibility that this is the price that we're going to pay for a certain period of time. All the wholesale buyers, whether that's Walmart or Target or anybody else, which, as a side note, we've already had one of those buyers leave their job because it was such a bad experience during the trade war. Like, if you work with a buyer, send them flowers or something, because their job has really sucked.
That's great advice, by the way. Like, really good advice.
Yeah. Well, just treat people as people. It is kind of like, and that, yes, they have a position and a way that you need to work with them. And so Like the person we worked with at Walmart who has transitioned to another role, she's great. She's great at her job. We're very sad to see her go, but the trade war was terrible on her and her quality of life. I mean, she was like, I'm not sleeping. So anyway, it was, as much as it was disruptive to brands, it was disruptive to everybody up and down the supply chain. You know, ask Ryan Peterson at Flexport, like everybody got disrupted. Anyway, so these wholesale buyers, they'll have an agreement on a price, and that agreement doesn't change overnight. They usually get 60 or 90 days to, even if you can kind of come to an agreement with them on a new price, they get 60 or 90 days to change it. Well, not surprisingly, when you say, hey, we're going to change prices, we're going to change prices up, your wholesale is going up $3. Even once you get them to align, they've got this period. Guess what they do? They order as much as they can at the lower prices that then they can sell at the higher retails. And so we definitely have seen that. Our wholesale customers loaded up on inventory during that window. So what that means is that they're heavy on inventory right now. It's the rational thing for them to do. But so all of our channels, at least the physical retail ones, are pretty heavy right now intentionally. So I'm really curious, Sean. I don't know. Like to buy for Q4, they're going to have to start buying at the higher wholesales, which you privately you said this, but I'll share it here. They're very balance sheet conscious right now. And this was one of the problems that we talked about during the trade war, is that if I'm Target and I'm used to carrying 1 million water bottles at any given point in time, if now there's a 30% tax or something on those water bottles, then now I either need to carry, 700,000 water bottles, or I've got to allocate more funds, more capital towards carrying water bottle inventory. And it's not like these corporations just suddenly have a lot more capital. So I think we're about to see the rubber really hit the road. Right now, we haven't seen a drop off in ordering, but it's coming. Like the wholesale customers are going to be buying at these higher wholesales, and it's going to impact the way that they approach things.
You might remember that Ridge switched to Rich Panel about a year ago. Since then, our orders are climbing, yet support tickets aren't. Rich Panel's self-service portal now lets 47% of our shoppers solve their own issues instantly. We used to answer every single ticket with a person. Now, that one change is on track to save us $500,000 in support salaries just this year. Our customer satisfaction is at an all-time high. It's above 96%. And we're doing that with less people, with more orders. AI is all the rage. E-com operators are finding ways to leverage AI and improve the revenue per employee. Ridge targets over $2 million per full-time employee, and Rich Panel is helping us achieve that goal. Rich Panel offers one of the most straightforward ways to leverage AI and improve your bottom line. Here's how Rich Panel's AI is different from anything else out there. First, Rich Panel spends the first 24 hours just learning your past conversations. Then it takes all that knowledge and creates self-guided service flows. There's no chatbots, there's no hallucinations. It is just exactly what your customers need to see and hear to solve their problems immediately after that first 24 hours. Our team saw the impact on day one. We're getting more tickets. They're being resolved faster, better, with a higher level of competency and a higher level of satisfaction, all with less people on the team. So if you're serious about boosting revenue per employee and freeing agents to do higher value tasks, book a demo. Switching is painless. They do data migration. They train the staff. Everything's handled. It's a white glove service for operators listeners. Brands like Ridge, Jones Road, Pila, Lomi, they're all already switched and they rely within 2 weeks. They guarantee 30% ticket reduction in the first 60 days or your money back. Think about that. You're going to get a bunch of customers coming to you. Q4 is just around the corner, and they guarantee 30% reduction in human tickets in the first 60 days. If that's interesting to you, go to richpanel.com/demo to book a demo. That's RICH panel.com/demo. Get started today. Thank you so much, Rich Panel, for supporting the world's #1 e-commerce podcast and being on the greatest show on earth. Let's get back to it.
Another kind of point that I will just make in general about our business and how we approached it, and we'll see, is it right or wrong? We had been operating under an EDLP, everyday low price kind of model. And that's I would say most people in e-com probably don't, but we were, because we were selling in places like Target and Walmart. what that basically means is that you're like, hey, this is the price. And basically, more or less, that's the price every day. There's not a lot of volume being pumped through promotions. Maybe promotional sales are 10% of your sales. One of the ways to think about this is, what is the average selling price that this item sells at across the year, and how different is that than my regular everyday price? So anyway, we just kind of came to the conclusion that that's not how our industry is working anymore. There's a lot more promotion and there's a lot more marketing, and we can't really be as committed to the EDLP price as we wanted to be in the past. And so we raised prices significantly, and that slowed us down as well. It's like a reset. It's kind of like breaking a bone to reset it, and hopefully it grows back stronger. But we're definitely going to take a step back on unit volumes in order to be able to have more room to market and more room to run promotions. But you just look at Prime Day that just happened, and this is going to get repeated here at the end in November. Every single one of our competitors was running a 25 to 40% off deal on Amazon. Wow. All of them. And it's just table stakes now. Kudos to Amazon that they've made it. And it'll be the same way that Amazon calls that period around Black Friday, T11, Turkey 11. But they've just found a way to get every brand to basically just, hand over the keys to promotion to Amazon. And so once we realized that that's the world we're living in, we realized we were probably fundamentally mispriced, and we used this opportunity to change it. So that's it's extremely uncertain is what I would say, Sean. And the other thing I would say is we're heavy on inventory as a result of all those changes. So the only good part of that is it's kind of made some of the decisions about Q4 and ordering a little bit easier because we do have quite a bit of inventory.
Yeah, Mike. So many good nuggets to unpack there, right? Everyday low price, amazing strategy if you're milk, right? Like, have you ever seen milk go on sale, right? But
yeah, you don't want to buy it. If the milk's on sale, don't buy it.
yeah. But talk about negative signals. But like you're competing in a world where you're a fashion item now, right? And people are used to 70% markdown sometimes. So let's talk about the balance sheet thing real quick. Public companies have a lot of masters, right? But like, they do not want to be caught flat-footed with a bunch of inventory in a tariff environment. That is a death sentence to the stock, right? If they come on and they say, hey, earnings are going to miss because we have too much inventory on the balance sheet, like huge, or like they have to suspend a dividend, or that would just tank a stock price right now. So they have to have a weak balance sheet, but at the same time, prices are going to go up. So do you buy the cheap stuff right now? And we're having the same song and dance with one of our major retailers, where our sales in the retailer are up literally 150% year over year, and then they haven't ordered. And it's like, okay, guys, well, you need to buy the more stuff to replace that, right? Like, those things directly go hand in hand. But Matt, are you worried about Q4? I mean, you're a marketer, you make stuff, in-house for a lot of it, but you have a new Lomi coming out. So how are you managing all that?
Yeah, man, Lomi 3 is on the water. So
let's go.
Yeah, I know. We've been doing pre-orders for the last few weeks, and that's going well. We're not even marketing yet. It's like we've not turned on anything. I'm a little concerned with after this Prime Day. Like I'm like cautious, I guess, going into Q4. Like we're not going to go heavy on inventory this year. If I sell out, I sell out. I'd rather be wrong on the down than wrong on the up when it comes to inventory. Like I'd rather not have too much. Not in that product. It's just too expensive. It's not, dude, if I was buying too many Pila cases, it wouldn't matter. They're cheap enough that like the balance sheet impact isn't crazy. But too many Lomis at a couple $100 a pop, that sucks. So we're going to plan for a cautious Q4. I am planning a pretty significant splash with marketing in early November. Like we are a very gift heavy item. I'm investing in creative like I've never invested before in that brand. Like you remember, we've been off ads for almost 10 months as we transition to like Gen 3.
I was going to ask, like, how do you plan for growth when it's a brand new product and you don't have, like, did we guys even on sale last Q4 with Gen 2?
Oh, we were, yeah, because we were clearing out inventory, but we cleared out too much. So then, like, that's kind of what screwed us, right? Is we went into Q4 with a certain amount of Lomi 1s and 2s, sold too many, like against plan. Like we actually did pretty well, and then had a pretty good January as well. And that kind of rooked us a bit. Like we went into April completely sold out. So I had nothing on D2C, like literally nothing to sell. So we've been sort of stepping down marketing. And I'm treating this like a brand new launch, which is why I'm going pretty splashy with campaign for launch. Like we're going to treat it like a brand new product. So I'm viewing this like with the day that we launched Lomi 1, right? Like let's pre-build demand. Let's really hype it up and overinvest in creative. I'm going to go all channels, like TV, YouTube, and we have a pretty significant retail deal nationwide for this launch as well. So I'm kind of supporting this like nationwide retail launch with a decent amount of marketing right at the time of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, where we'll do well on D2C and Amazon. So yeah, I'm cautious, but I'm still leaning into it because I'd rather build so much demand that we sell out and then just worry about it in Q1. Like this is a long game. I'm not super worried about Q4.
Yeah. So Matt, this is a question for you. And then I also want to hear from Mike, and it's about value engineering, right? So, Lomi 2 had 0% tariffs. I'm sure, right? Like,
yeah, no inventory had any tariffs on it. Lomi 3 will have some. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, we're going from 0, and Mike, I'm sure you were close to 0 in 2024.
Yeah, we were 7% was the duty. I mean, there's duties and tariffs, and we had a duty, and then but we missed the tariffs in round 1 of all the Trump stuff. But now, obviously, we're getting hit with everybody else.
So yeah, so sub 10% for both you guys, and now a minimum of 30% or something.
Yeah,
right. So, we just heard from Mike that he had to raise prices for wholesalers. They responded accordingly. They bought a bunch of cheap inventory, and now like his Q4 orders are going to come late, right? And that's very hard for him to manage his business. How are you dealing with a 30% increase in COGS? How are you offsetting that?
Okay, so like this is again, back to Mike's comment on like this year has been good in some ways and then like hard in others. So we've been working on Lomi 3 for 3 years. The thing with device, any kind of like hardware, firmware, software product development cycles are super long. So like I strongly advise against going into anything hardware unless you've got cash to do it, which is why we raise money. Because you're kind of always developing multiple products at the same time to plan out the years, right? Like Apple's already working on the iPhone 21. Like that's happening. It's iPhone 17 this year. So
if not further, honestly.
If not further, yeah, like that, probably further for them. So Lomi 3, we did a ton of work re-engineering the product and getting the cost of manufacture down. So like really first principles work. Like let's go in and get every part that we can lowered in cost. Team did a good job there. We kind of gave up half of those wins with the tariffs, right? So like we're still coming out with this product at a much better contribution margin than Lomi 2 or Lomi 1. But I thought I would have an extra 30%, and now I don't. So that sort of changes allowable CAC, because the product, it's still like a device plus subscription play. Like we discount the day one price of the device to get people onto subscription. And that's the real business, is just subscription. So I just have less CAC to play with. We're not going to raise price. And that's partly to do to channel mix with what we're doing with Costco, D2C, Amazon, and kind of how we're thinking about Q4. So we've done a lot of price testing, and we kind of know what has to happen with price to make units move in Q4. So I just have less to play with, man. Like I think I saw you put a tweet out this morning. I don't know what we're supposed to call those things, a post anyway, this morning about like, you just have less margin to work with, and you should probably have less people than you did last year. And I think that's just a theme in the industry right now, is like there's less margin going around. Tariffs, ads, whatever it is, right? There's like people are always coming for margin from consumer goods. And I think we're just planning the business that way, at least the Lomi business, which is our, like, as far as Q4 goes, that's our Q4 brand is Lomi. Peel Case has a good Q4, but it's not like a banger. I don't see like 10x normal days in Peel Case in Q4. It's just not giftable. But Lomi, we do like 25x normal days in Q4. It's that big of a swing. It's no different than a Roomba or any of those types of like very giftable home tech items.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up, like what to do with the margin, right? And, Mike alluded to this, it's a tax, right? So let's say the tax was 0% and it went to 20%, it's 20% on your COGS value, right? And if your COGS are, if you have 80% margins or whatever, so you have a 20% tax on 20% of all of the money in your business, which is probably like the same as, it's probably half of what income tax is, because income tax is like 35% on profit or whatever. Anyway, there's some math you can do there. And what it looks out to is like, yeah, it's a pretty sizable tax. And it's a weird tax because it's not on profit, right? Like,
Yeah.
You can, if you run a break even, you don't pay any taxes, but you're going to pay tariffs and duties anyway. So it's weird where it's landing. And what does it take away from? Does it take away from your profit? Does it take away from your CAC? Does it take away from top line? Or do you raise prices, right? And just like force inflation? So yeah, Matt, what are your thoughts?
You're going to see a lot of that in durables, like big stuff. Because I think this is like also where scale and price point matters. So like on a Lomi, 30% on my COGS is probably $30, right? Somewhere around that. Maybe $30, $40. 30% on a Ridge wallet is likely 45 cents, right? Or like $1.
A dollar. Okay.
Wow, shots fired.
Whatever. Okay. So like same on a PLA case. Like I would barely sneeze at it because in order to raise prices to cover that, I'd have to raise it by $1. Right. But if you're a fridge or something like a Roomba, a Dyson vacuum, something that's in the hundreds of dollars or approaching 1,000, all of a sudden the price increases are going to be pretty dramatic to consumers.
They're triple digit.
Yeah. You're like, these are going up 100, 200, 300, 500.
And those things matter, obviously.
Furniture is going to be massive. Like these are big categories that we tend to not really pay attention to. And I think that's where we're going to see some we've already like durables, consumer durables, like large durables has been for 3 years, 4 years. Like it's really been bad. I think this just makes it even worse.
Well, one of the things that this inevitably does is it pushes people, like the kind of share of wallet from durables to consumables / services. And and that's not great for people like us.
No, I think another one that I'm sort of like, that's causing me, and this is the thing, like my caution with Q4 has a little less to do with tariffs and a little more to do with the housing market, right? Like, so like our business, you guys definitely don't deal with this, but like if you sell furniture and the US housing market isn't turning over, that sucks. Yeah. Right. If you sell fridges and stoves,
because that's when you buy furniture. That's when you buy a fridge. Is when you move into a new home or
totally. So like all the house stuff, all home goods really gets tied up as like a downstream effect of like how many houses are selling. And the US housing market's not been awesome. Like it's not terrible, but people aren't selling houses. They're not moving because interest rates are high. Why would you give up these 30-year mortgages? So I think that is causing me more pause for Lomi than impact of tariffs, even though like Prime Day didn't look super awesome for everybody.
Yeah, dude, I'm like, sorry, Matt. I'm glad you brought that up. It's like, look, if there's a lot of smoke, you don't know if it's a house fire or forest fire, right? Like, HB Buttercup is a furniture brand in LA. They're going bankrupt for like the 4th time. It's like, it's just because furniture is a hard market. I know somebody but like, there's a lot of hard markets happening at the same time, right? Consumables, like health and wellness, having a massive moment, a massive heater. And if you're in that category, fucking, wow, you're killing it, dude. It's consumable. There's wholesale accounts. People want to take care of themselves. But like, I know people in the furniture space, and it could be tariffs. Tariffs are just like not the thing they needed, because home purchases are at 2008 to 2009 levels, right? People aren't buying houses, and it's interest rates, and it's people nervous, and it's all those things that are happening, right? So yeah, furniture is incredibly challenged for a couple reasons, right? A lot of furniture production was happening in Southeast Asia, happening in China, and if it's $100 and it goes to $150, it just, who's going to eat it? Is it going to go on MSRP, or is it going to come out of CACs, or does it come out of profit? To your point, I guess my question was, who's going to eat that burden? Is it going to go to the American consumer and higher prices?
I think it's all got to go to the consumer. I think Mike's right. I think companies, even if you're not a public company, Sean, you're still not going to want to give up margin, right? Like this is capitalism. That's not the point of the game.
Jason, what do you like about Ceres? You were gone for the past week in Italy. Were you
Yeah.
checking Sarah's dashboards?
I wasn't checking anything in Italy, but I will say this, like whenever anyone on my teams, like growth team or anywhere else, like sends me data anymore, it's likely coming out of Saris. And every once in a while, I'll get something from them and it looks really slick. And I'm like, where'd you get that? Is that Saris? And like, yeah. And I always feel really good about our investment. I do get a daily email of some metrics out of Saris that comes through. But one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is AI. I mean, duh, right? Everyone is. Duh. But like, I finally woke up a few weeks ago. I was like, I got to get serious about this. And I was actually talking to the Saris guys, and they launched the next generation AI powered stuff in their platform, which I'm excited about. It's Saris IQ. It's invite only right now. If you mention Operators Podcast, you can probably get access, hopefully. But the next level of all of this is first with AI, you need to have all of your data somewhere. I mean, it's going to be really messy to just drop stuff into different AI platforms. If you have your data in one place, and then you can really leverage AI. So the way I thought about our investment in Saris Analytics was getting all of our data in one place, understanding our customers better, understanding our marketing metrics better, but then being able to layer AI on top of that is, I think, the really exciting next level here.
You brought up bringing in Costco, Amazon, and Shopify. The ability to have all sales channels with the same data is so important. If you're listening to this and you sell on Amazon, you know how painful that platform is. You have to wait like a couple extra days to pull your reports. Like the SKUs aren't the same as the rest of your SKUs. Like the titles are different. So like to get actually like clean data to compare, it's very manual. Using Saris Analytics, they matched all that up for us. So like they cleaned all that data. So I could actually look at what is the true margin profile of an Amazon sale. What's Amazon return rate? What's Amazon customer frequency? Like all the type of data compared to our .com, and have like a comprehensive overview. And now with their new AI tool, I don't have to look at it. I could just ask it. It could just tell me cool questions. So doing that across our 5 Shopify stores as well. We have an EU Shopify store. So now I can compare EU Ring customer cohorts versus Canadian Ring customer cohorts versus Amazon Ring customer cohorts. So now we're getting to different functions of my business across different channels, different categories, and actually looking at the margin, the repeat rate, and like, is it worth investing in these different things? So if your business starts to feel like a spider web and just like keeps going and going and going, it's just like this nonstop proliferation of different channels, maybe it's time to check something out like Saris Analytics.
I remember, Sean, at the very beginning, this is a very typical Sean thing. Sean was like, what is this? Why do I need this? Right. And I'm actually really happy that you come to understand like how important having a data warehouse is and what it does for managing your business, because you were not like a true believer from the beginning.
No, I was angry when you told me I needed to pay for something new, but Jason was right. He convinced me. He got me on board. I'm using it. So a rare Jason W. So thank you, Jason.
Very rare.
I'm on Saris Analytics. He's on Saris Analytics. Proud sponsor of the Operators Podcast. So if you want a data warehouse and you want an AI-powered data warehouse, tell Saris about the Saris IQ feature, and then you crave it. You're demanding you get access to it. So, all right, guys. Talk to you later.
The point I was making earlier is each of the parties in the supply chain has a punchback, and the consumer's punchback is, I'm going to buy less furniture. You know what? That's fine. You try and charge me another 30% on my furniture. I'm just going to buy less. I'm going to get by with 3 pieces of furniture instead of 5. And that's the concern I have. It's interesting now because I do have exposure in consumables, and I would totally, I mean, like the Prime Day thing was really like interesting. I mean, it was kind of the canary in the coal mine of like, hey, this isn't great, right? Like, I don't think I'm in a bunch of group chats with you guys and other ones, people are posting data online. My brother sells a lot on Amazon. We actually had what I consider to be a really good Prime Day, but the way that we got there was very different than last year. And like Trevi, for example, I think was, I don't know, 10x or something on Prime Day, but that is an outlier, and that's a consumable. And our drinkware year over year was probably an abomination of a comp. And, I've heard stories about Amazon wanting to run deals again next week with some of the things that work because their numbers obviously are terrible. So I think that the biggest concern for everybody is the prices are going to go up. Everybody's going to try and pass it on the consumer. The consumer is going to say, you know what? I can do with 5 water bottles instead of 8. I can do with, whatever. I can go longer with Lomi 2 instead of buying Lomi 3.
Totally.
And that I guess the term I would say is internally, sellouts are sexy. And I don't think we thought about it that way for a long time, but now I think we're starting to think about it like that. Like, you buy conservatively on inventory and you blow through it, good on you. You don't look at that and say, man, should have bought more. Like, because it's just not a period of optimizing for growth and optimizing for top line. I think to your point, Sean, the more you try and optimize for top line and growth, the more you compromise on margins and CAC and all these other things. And you just can't in this environment. You have to kind of say, no, you know what? If we sell half as many bottles, but we hit the kind of contribution profit per bottle we want to hit, then we'd rather do that than the opposite. Go big and, have double the inventory we want to have with this new tariff cost.
I like to read comments on Instagram posts. So like when I see ads or whatever, right? I just like to read. I don't know. It's like a weird thing. I don't know. It's entertaining. Anyway, one of the things I noticed with Prime was I was looking at a bunch of brands, scrolling my feed and just looking at like Prime ads and Prime promotions and Prime anything. Very strong amount of a large amount of people have this comment on like, it's Amazon's annual raise prices before you drop them event. Right. So like, I think that the MSRPs have to go up so that we allow for more room for promotion. I don't want brands and brand operators to think that this is like, dude, the consumer knows, this is not like, you're not winning here. This is just the game that's being played and you either opt into it or you don't. And Amazon is just like forcing everybody to opt into this, like you want to run a 30% plus whatever Black Friday deal, which is going to be the expectation because every year it's higher. And I see influencers post about this all the time. It's like, if you don't do at least 25%, I'm not even paying attention to you. Like, that's the content that's on the internet.
Right. Well, dude, Amazon built a business cutting off your tail and selling it back to you. Right. Where they're like, you have to discount because that's when people want to shop. Right. And like, if you just ran discounts, you would also have a sales bump. Right. Amazon like created this new area where it gives you permission to discount or whatever, but you could always discount. And it's this cycle where like more people discount, so more people shop. But now we've reached the peak where they've had to double the days to get a little bit of growth, right? And
it's kind of amazing that they've been able to expand it to so much of the calendar. Like I said, they call it Turkey 11 now. You've got how many Prime days? I've lost count. Are there 3 different Prime events that are now 4 days long? I don't know. But I mean, there's just so much stuff. It's like eventually it's going to be like, hey, there's 3 days where things are regular price and then everything else is some kind of sales event.
Yeah, totally. So going back to like, I have 2 points. The first is I try to be the contrarian with this. I was telling people to raise prices for like 4 years. I'm like, raise your prices. Like, but none of us raise our prices fast enough. But now we're in a world where tariffs. I think if you cannot raise your prices, don't raise your prices. Just because everyone else is doing it, and you should wait to see what actually shakes out. But the second point is who's actually going to eat the tariffs this Q4, right? What Ridge is going to try to do is spend less on marketing, right? I want to keep profit the same. Matt graciously called out that my wallets don't cost that much to make, right? So and basically it just kind of reverts all the changes I did last year, right? So like we have a better supply chain and we have better. We've already lowered COGS, like we're always doing that. And this kind of brings us back to 2023 to 2024 levels of prices. So the margin hit isn't too crazy, but I'm going to try to have marketing dollars absorb that, right? Like typically we run this business at like a 2.5x MER, and then we end the year at 3 because Q4 is going to be so good. Can I end the year at 3.3 or 3.5, right? And then who's paying for it? It's Meta, right? So it's taking dollars out of the growth ecosystem, sacrificing top line to like make sure I'm hitting the contribution margin I want. That's probably the game on the field when it comes to Q4. But Matt, this all started to ask you about value engineering. Okay.
Yeah.
How can you get away with not increasing prices, but keeping your margin the same when there's a 30% tax? Mike, you're the king of value engineering.
We are actively engaged in this. And like, obviously, value engineering sucks internally because you are intentionally taking things away from the product. And so that I'll just go ahead and say this at the beginning. The game when you're value engineering is to say, where are the good trades where I remove 20 cents in cost and $1 in retail, but it only was worth 50 cents to the customer. Does that make sense? Like you need to not have the mindset that I'm going to take this away and nobody's going to notice. I mean, if you can do that, then you should have done it yesterday. But like if you're looking at things that you can kind of remove. So a good example for us, we have awesome boxes. Awesome. They've got foil on them. They're white. They are great, but they're expensive, you know, and there is a kind of version of that does not have foil. It still looks sharp, but it's not as nice. But we can save 20 cents a bottle. Well, when you sell 14 million bottles, like, you know what that is? That's $2.8 million a year for the extra shiny foil or whatever. And so you're taking a little bit of a step down in the unboxing experience, but also like the savings is really significant. There are things like there are several different types of powder coating. And the big thing around powder coating has been, can you get dishwasher safe, you know, in quotes, powder coating. And we're now paying, as opposed to like whatever, 15 cents a bottle, we've been paying 30 cents a bottle. I don't know. Those are just numbers I'm throwing out. But like there was a premium you were paying for that. And so how do you want to pay for the quote unquote dishwasher safe powder coating that maybe isn't even dishwasher safe? And so maybe you can save 15 cents a bottle. But oh, by the way, the 15-cent one might have chemicals that may become targeted by California. And so you might have to switch back. And so legal has one opinion, manufacturing has one opinion, marketing has one opinion. And when you do value engineering, this, at least in my experience, Sean, this is kind of what you're doing is you're educating between these different groups. Because there's always some group that's like, I don't want to lose that, right? You're taking away something from me and you're having to make tougher decisions. I mean, one of the most interesting ones in our particular industry is in every bottle, this became kind of a news story, but in every bottle, there is something to cover a hole and vacuum insulate it, basically. And for a long time, that was a little dot that was made of solder, basically. So you turn them upside down, you put this little solder dot, you put it in the oven, the solder dot melts, and it creates the vacuum as it melts. But the solder dots had little bits of lead in them, but it didn't matter because they were kind of basically on the inside of the cup. And so like I won't cap anybody. There were a lot of people, almost everybody was using these solder dots that had little pieces of lead, but it didn't matter because there was no way you could be exposed to that lead. And then this kind of became an issue. There was a kind of a big news story with Stanley, and it was like, oh, they use lead. And so then the industry has kind of moved towards this. There's an alternative, which is totally glass-based. But that little glass bead is another 20 cents. And so like this is another good example of like, hey, do you want to have the cheaper solder or do you want to pay 20 cents more for the glass solder? But in reality, it probably doesn't matter which you have. They're equally safe to people. So where do you choose to be? So that's kind of like been our experience is you're going through every piece of the product and you're saying, how could you get cheaper? How could you be, and remember in a tariff environment, you get that extra kicker. So if it was going to save you $1, it's really saving you $1.35 or something like that, which at retail, $1.35 in savings in COGS is probably at least a $5 retail savings, which is obviously pretty dramatic in terms of how much people are willing to spend. And that's what we did over the last few months as we went through our products and you're going back and forth. There's other things where it's like, we will throw in extras. So like, I actually don't have the unit here, but this is a cool example. We have our new product that's coming out. There's kind of a his and hers version. It's my favorite bottle we've ever made by quite a bit. But one of them has kind of a flex handle. And so one of the cool ideas I had that started before the trade war is like, the way that flex handle's attached, we can actually send you 3 of them in your initial purchase, and they're different colors. And so you can kind of customize your bottle, because these little handles are not that much. They're like 10 cents. But if you're putting 3 handles in there at 20 cents, and then you've got the tariff or whatever, like we had to kind of consider, do you want to back off of that stuff, even though it's cool? The trade-off here, in my opinion, is that when people make hard goods purchases, it's not even, for most people, an explicitly value-based decision or a nominal price point decision. It's like, do I feel like I'm getting good value for what I'm paying? And so sometimes if you take this stuff out, they're like, it's like the customer feels like, hey, those little 20 cent of extra handles, that's super cool. I'd pay $2 for that. And other things that they wouldn't pay it for. So that's what we've been trying to do internally. We have found some savings. I think between working with our factory and kind of savings that we found in product, we probably can get back to like the levels that we were at before. I don't know. We'll see. The other thing with China that I found here is that when you kind of say, okay, we're going to, use the dishwasher safe powder coating, and they're like, okay, that'll be 20 cents more. If you come back a year later and you're like, we want to go back, they're like, yeah, you can't get that 20 cents back. We, and they'll have lots of reasons, but they don't want to like all of a sudden just reduce your cost by 20 cents. So clawing that back is never a one-to-one exercise.
Yeah, look, and this goes to an earlier episode. We're talking about, negotiating with factors and suppliers. Like you always bring up, who wants the banana, who wants the peel. If you go to them and be like, dude, I'll give you an extra $1 a unit, but can I pay you in 365 days? They'll be like, oh, awesome. Yeah, because they want to see what they're manufacturing go up in price, right? That brings them way more margin, and it might make your life way easier. I know it sucks to have COGS go up even more, but if you go there and be like, we'll eat all the tariffs plus we'll give you $1, I just need better terms. It makes your life so much easier on the cash flow side, because Mike, you probably have $10 million in billables out at any given point.
That's it's crazy, Sean. Like, so I was actually talking to our CFO about this. We have a $50 million facility, and right now we have 0 on it, I believe. So
wow.
we are basically a debt-free business. Which is awesome. We've been conservative. It helped during the trade war and stuff. But there is a period where, just because of the timing of receivables, I think that swells to 25 million. Even though we'll have 25 million on our facility simply because the receivable stack is so big.
Okay, it's no secret that margins are getting squeezed and profitability is a challenge for brands in 2025. Not a secret. That is where Northbeam's profitability benchmarks come in. It's a new feature. You could check it out. This is a tool from Northbeam that tells you the exact targets that you need to hit to get to profit inside of Northbeam. So no more guessing, no more month-end financial surprises. Hitting these targets helps you ensure that your ad campaigns are actually driving the right behaviors to make your business profitable. That is wonderful. The brands that track this stuff probably already do in Google Sheets. I know I do. I'm going to be checking out this Northbeam new feature. And Northbeam is a big level up from this. And here's what sets kind of what I have seen. Here's what sets profitability benchmarks apart. So instantly you get to quantify your goals into clear benchmarks. Every ad gets measured against those targets right inside of Northbeam. That's kind of cool, actually. And you see, and you can kind of at a glance see which ads are doing well, which needs to go against profitability benchmarks, not just ROAS or whatever else you're using right now. You scale up the winners, you cut the losers, you know the drill. It is hard to argue that this is not great for brands. Profitability benchmarks from Northbeam is like having a speedometer in all your channels, campaigns, ads. You can kind of see everything at a glance against profitability, not something else. So stop leaving money on the table, fuel your creative performance, make every ad dollar count in every channel, hold them all to the same standard. If you want to reach out to Northbeam, just let them know the operator sent you and they will take good care of you.
Okay, so value engineering. Matt, you've done it for the past 24 months, right? And it's baked, the cake's showing up. So fantastic. You have to give half back because of the tariff war. Mike's actively in it. And we talked about balance sheet. We talked about what's happening in wholesale and watching wholesalers like try to navigate this. Big public companies, there's a reason why it's so good to be private. If you guys want to not grow for a year, nobody cares. It's like, I was talking to a young founder, they grew super fast, right? I mean, they had a year that was 65 million and now they're doing half that. And he's like, I feel like a failure. I'm like, well, do you own the business? He's like, yeah, I own half of it. I'm like, do you have investors? He's like, yeah, no, it's just me and my buddy. We own the whole thing. And I'm like, brother, you're a multimillionaire. I'm like, okay, sorry, I didn't keep going up and to the right, but like things are going to be fine. Just keep playing the game and survive.
Even if you have investors, man, I'm going to say this, like I talk to a lot of investors. We have investors. We've a bunch of them. In this sort of environment, there's a lot of grace given. Like I don't really have, I don't know the last time I had a conversation where an investor was like, why aren't you growing? Like they're not dummies. That I think like last year, particularly, we had a down year. And I remember going into my first board meeting knowing that it was going to be a down year, which was at the beginning of the year. I'm like, there's no way we're going to have an up year. Like we're transitioning product. I'm just not spending as much on marketing. I'm like, sorry, guys.
It's just not always up and to the right. I mean, I think, Sean, you guys have been on a pretty much continuous up and to the right. Eventually, you'll have a year where it's not. I mean, Hexclad has been up and to the right. Eventually, you get to a scale where it's not. Yep. This is the thing about the game is even if you're awesome, even if your product is awesome and your team is awesome, then eventually you get to a size where, like the game difficulty adjusts to the business. So like Sean, you might hit you're not up and to the right year when you're at $1 billion in sales or at $500 million in sales, but everybody hits it. If you're listening to this, like everybody hits it. And really this is a game. I'm listening to a book about investing. The best money managers, it's not always positive comps to the index. It's not always positive returns. It's about what kind of returns can you put up over a 10 or 15 or 20 year period that matter.
Right. But guys, this is supposed to be the positive Q4 podcast.
Yes, the positive. Okay. Up and to the right starts this Q4, Sean.
Yeah.
Well, hang on. I'm actually quite bullish on Peel Case this Q4. Like that actually I'm feeling really good.
Talk about why, Matt.
We exist in relation to everybody else in our industry, right? Like we all have competition, you guys and us, and Pila has a lot of competition. Case category Sean's talked about, it's huge. A lot of our competition has been slapped around quite a bit this year. So we've just from a supply chain perspective, like we've been in a good place. So we've managed to, when people were pulling back, we leaned in and we were able to spend, I would say, like pretty efficient demand dollars on that brand so far this year. The last month's been a little harder, but like it's been a pretty good year in that brand. So that's part one. Part two is retail expansion. So we've never had that before. We've never been an omni-channel brand, not seriously. This is the year where we're taking it seriously. We've got a bunch of stuff lined up. I don't want to say where, but like it's meaningful. We're even venturing into our own stores, I think, by the end of this year. So like there's just a lot happening in that brand that I'm quite bullish on. And most signals seem pretty good. And I know that that's not normal right now, especially in like durables, because there's a lot of share of wallet being eaten away. But yeah, in that brand, I mean, a lot of signals that are external to us just seem to be lining up.
Okay, Matt. So are you planning growth for Pila Case in Q4?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Pila Case this year so far is up like high double digits.
And what do you attribute that success to? Is it all just category? You're just getting better, or like, did you get ads to work? Like, we
got ads to work. So our creative investment, we've been investing a lot in creative. Last 12 months has been like, I took this view that if you want to grow your media spend, then like we should start spending 10% of our desired spend on creative.
That's helpful, Matt. We talk about that all the time, especially even with social content, because Instagram is just increasingly becoming pay to play. Like I'm constantly trying to talk to the team about how much are we spending on the creation of content versus the actually amplifying it. And I think at our worst, sometimes we're just not thinking about that ratio. So we make a really cool video on Instagram, but we don't pay to get it kind of blasted out there.
It's return on invested capital, Mike. Like, and that's kind of, I started looking at creative investment as an ROIC thing. So like, because I would do that with pretty much every other part of the business. Why would I not do it with creative? And so there's two schools of thought in creative. It's like, one is you shouldn't be spending a lot on creative, and two is you should probably spend way more. I sort of looked at it and like, okay, well, if I want to spend $2 million a month on ads, I should probably be spending somewhere around $200,000 on creative somewhere. And at some point that will detach, right? Like maybe at $2 million, I'm only spending $100,000 a month, but the creative is the investment ahead of the ability to amplify it, if that makes sense. So we started doing that about 12 months ago. And it's just like, the nice thing is it's kind of a compounding thing. We seem to be getting better at it. We've built up the team a bit more. We tested a bunch of new angles. So like one of the ones for Pele case that's nice that nobody else can really claim is the whole microplastics thing. Like we're the only non-plastic case out there. So there's no nasty. So like a whole health part of this product now that we didn't have before. I think Will needs to actually talked about this, like trend hopping with your brand. Dude, I loved that concept. So we just sort of went out and said like, well, where are all the trends and are there trends that we can fit into with brand positioning? And I think we've found that there's quite a few of them that we just weren't really tapping before. I would say the biggest one, Sean, is that like we just broke out of what we call eco jail. Like eco first as a positioning isn't a huge TAM buyer. And we sort of last 12 months has been like chipping away as like, that's not the reason you're going to buy this product. That's sort of a, oh, by the way, at the bottom. And that has been a huge
If you cater
help.
to that crowd, you can actively turn off the non-eco buyer.
Oh man, you know what we discovered too is like when we lean too hard into the eco thing with the mass market, people associate sustainable with paper straws. Paper straws in their mind is like, oh, it's like that. I'm like, no, it's like it's better than the other.
It's funny. We were in California a couple weeks ago and, it's all paper straws. And then we got to Vegas and it's like plastic's back, baby. And it's like, that's so on character for those two different places.
Well, yeah, I think like what we found is like when we got out of our own way, started like working with people outside of the brand. So like brought in somebody like Sarah Levinger to say like, okay, can you just look at us? Like one of our downsides is being mostly Canadian teams. Like I think we get stuck in our own crap. I mean, most teams do this. Doesn't matter if you're Canadian or not. But we started bringing other eyeballs and other brains into the company just to help us out. Positioning, copy, like what do you think? How would you sell this? Just asking simple questions like that. And we started to discover that like the product and the material has properties and characteristics that people love that have nothing to do with it being sustainable.
Oh, right? Dude, yeah. Plastic free would sell way more than sustainable right now.
Totally.
Yeah, because the health angle is so much more of a, I agree, totally.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there's a bunch of moves that we just made that are starting to compound. And in a large TAM category like cases, it's not hard to gobble up share.
Yeah, and that's why we have two case sellers on this podcast, and we're super friendly.
Yeah, I don't care.
So you're investing upwards of 10% of marketing dollars back into creative
of desired marketing.
Okay.
So if I want, like right now, if I'm spending $1 million a month and I want to go to 1.5, I look at creative as the lead investment. I don't just start spending another $500,000 a month.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Creative is definitely one of the tools to get your ceiling higher in terms of spend. We probably spend 3 to 5%, and that's across all creative.
That kind of makes sense to me, Sean. At your level of spend across channels, like I do think that comes down with more scale. And I'm really talking about meta spend right now, like not total media spend.
After a certain nominal point, you probably aren't moving the ball with creative. And that's kind of what you were saying. Like you probably need to be spending a certain amount to really be getting a good enough creative. And then once you get to that, as your spend scales, like you don't need to continue to scale creative.
Dude, also in-house studio teams. So like a big cost of creative is just like studio photography and like, brand videos. And we're doing that all in-house now. So massive savings there. So
yeah, I think we've always had most of our creative in-house. This year, we've started to use some outside agencies just to help us with diversity. And again, that's just like we've had an in-house creative team for 8 years. Stuff starts to look the same and sound the same. And I bring in outside people just to challenge the status quo. So I think like all that put together is just, I'm fairly optimistic about Q4 for that brand, but still cautiously optimistic.
You're right. I was too negative earlier, Sean. I'll give you some optimism. Our optimism has been, we've really had a lot of success with our non-drinkware lines, and we've really had a lot of success with kids. And I think my takeaway has been when you have exceptional product market fit, people are just a lot less price sensitive. And so I love that business. That business is less trend based. It's more, do you have the right licenses? Do you have the kind of brand positioning? And so like here's like in it's interesting because like in the midst of some numbers I don't like, there's other numbers which are amazing. On our website sales for the first 16 days of June, we're up 28%. And that's about the same on both new and returning customers, and our contribution profit's up 100%. So it's like we're really making back to school work, and that's in the middle of some pretty significant price increases. We've taken our textiles to Target; those are working well, and Scheels. And so, like, I think one thing for us is finding. With Q4, we're going to take some products that typically we've advertised at different parts of the year, and we're probably going to try and promote those more heavily during Q4. We make a bag out of EVA material, and we have a great other competitor in that space. They ran a Q4 deal on Amazon last year that got to the very top of the deals page.
I remember that one.
Yeah, that was a killer deal.
My team was like, we need to make that bag.
Yeah. It's so it's like, it's just a good example that like that's way out of season for that bag. But during Q4, when people are gift buying, you can do that. So we definitely see some opportunities. It's, I think what happens, I've said this before, is just as your portfolio gets bigger of things that you're doing, you just always have things that are going good and bad, because you just have more surface area. And so, and then the electrolytes is another example of an area that like, our month over month growth looks awesome. And so we really think that's just going to continue. We've got the trend as our friend there.
Yeah. And look, we talk about how awesome Ridge is and, keep growing, whatever. And that's what people think I'm an arrogant. But almost all of that growth since 2021 or 2022 has been non-wallet categories, net new things that I've done, right? Like I'll do $30 million in wedding bands. That didn't exist 24 months ago. So it's like, of course my business is growing. I have these crazy new things I'm adding to it, right? And we're reaching the end of the cycle. We're doing the same thing for 10 years and getting growth out of it. Like, you can't do it anymore. You have to do new stuff. If it's new channels, new products, new whatever. Operators, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is coming up. Is your SMS list ready? If not, get on Postscript. They are helping us drive 14% more email signups through their better opt-ins. They're helping us get 6% more SMS subs every single day because they have perfected the art of pop-ups. You need to build your list. You have to nurture your list. You have to take care of your list. Postscript is the best at that. They're the number one name in SMS. It's their number one revenue driver. We are excited and ready to take advantage of all of the lists we've built all year, okay? Postscript has the best opt-in of all time. It is single sign-in, password autofill right on your phone, and we're going to get probably another 100,000 people to sign up between now and the end of the year. We're going to use those people. We're going to use SMS to nurture them through the funnel. It's an amazing tool. I love it. Make sure you're ready for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Postscript is here to help guide you through everything that you need when it comes to SMS. More opt-ins, more list building. Make sure you don't look like an amateur this BFCM. Use Postscript. Tell them Sean sent you. Tell them the operator sent you. Postscript will audit your SMS program for free and show you how to scale fast before Black Friday, Cyber Monday hits. When we talk about list growth, that's what you have to use before, during, and after Black Friday. You want serious gains. You want Postscript. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you for being here. We have a list of tips, okay? So Matt, you want to go first? You got some tips for everybody.
Oh, yeah, totally. Look, I think I got three. Well, let me give you two. The first is pre-build demand. September and October suck from a sales perspective for most brands, but they're actually not bad from a cost of impressions. So I like to lean into those months and run it down to the wire. So like run it close to break even if I can, just to pre-build and soak the sponge. So like that's number one. The second one, can I give the second one right away, Sean?
Go ahead, dude. Just run through them.
Dude, this is Mike will know this, but a lot of brands are going omnichannel. They're trying to get into retail. They're going into Amazon 1P, whatever it is. Shipping cutoff times are a real thing in Q4. These warehouses bulge, right? They're bursting at the seams with product. And those cutoff times are probably earlier than you think they are. If you're new to retail, they're far earlier than you think they are. And I think this year we've been seeing and hearing just some strange conversations around like earlier cutoff times where we have to get product in even earlier than we have in the past. And I think some of that might be that bullwhip effect from tariffs and overbuying when things were cheaper, and having a little more on hand. So those are my two.
Okay. I have start the sale earlier. You should probably be on sale as early as November 10th, basically. Prime Day 2 will be in October, to echo Matt's last point. You have to plan to have your inventory set up now. You should probably start trying to ship inventory. By the time you're listening to this, try to overstock Amazon as much as possible, because you don't know when it's going to be and you don't know how long it's going to be. Like Mike just said, it could be 17 days if they choose Prime Fortnite. And then extend the sale, right? Your sale period should probably be November 10th to December 10th. Like, take advantage when people want to shop, just have a bigger sale. And then TikTok ads are going to crush. It'll be sold and bought by an American company who has no interest in running TikTok shop. So I think the ads platform gets turned back on. Those are the tips. We have some Q&A we're going to get into. Rapid fire. I'm going to read the questions. You guys answer them in your operator knowledge. Okay. How do you figure out as a business whether the work people are doing in different divisions is the best possible thing you could be doing to move the needle?
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, dude, in revenue generating areas, this may be simple, but often harder in others, especially asking how you spot efficiency gaps to be able to scale quickly. How do you know if people are doing the right thing at the right times?
Okay. Can I start, Mike? Can I start?
Please.
For the love of God. Okay. I don't understand why people have gotten away from this idea of quarterly planning or just planning in general. It's become, I talk to enough operators, they think it's like this boomer concept. It's like this, you shouldn't do it. It's not required. I talk to my business partner every day. It doesn't matter. Like, my leadership team's super tight. We talk every day. Holy shit, you're missing planning cycles. Quarterly planning, like we do a quarterly planning, it's consistent. It's the rhythm in the business. It's 1.5 to 2 days. It's me and my entire leadership team. We decide everything that we're going to do for the next 90 days in that 1.5 days. And then that ladders down in the organization. If you don't, like, if you're in this bucket where you don't know if everybody's working on the right thing, you have a planning problem. That's it. Like, you're just not doing a part of running a business that's really freaking important. That's my rant.
Mike, what's your take?
Well, I think the idea I would stack on top of that, because obviously like the larger objectives, but there's a lot of, you don't want to micromanage people and you don't want to need to tell somebody what to work on all the time. And so there's a lot of kind of in between, the major objectives. There's a lot of discretionary time to work on projects. And this is why I think what you're hiring for, as much as anything else, is judgment. And to the extent that you can. Now, obviously, the lower the level of the position, the harder that is. But what we try and spend, in addition to the planning, what we try to spend time doing is training people to have good judgment, to be able to, and the way that I think about it is just, what is the highest leverage way that you can use your time right now? And that I want to hire and retain and promote people based on having that ability. Partially because I think you get a way more effective business, and also partially because it's a heck of a lot more enjoyable to run that business. I mean, any of us who's experienced it, where you have lower level people that are like super compliant, but constantly need you to tell them what to do, like that's a nightmare as a manager. So I'm looking for that. Actually, is one of the key characteristics I'm hiring for. Is, does this person have the ability to kind of look at a buffet of 10 different things they could be doing and give a kind of a good decision about which one they think's the highest leverage? The other point I'd make here is that I will have a different opinion than some of my leaders often about what's the highest leverage thing to do, because often it's just not obvious until afterwards what the highest leverage thing you could be investing in was. So you have corporate goals so that everybody has some agreement about, hey, here are the 2 or 3 most important things that we're working on, for example, right now. But then you also really want to cultivate a team that has judgment and empower them to use that judgment for the rest of their time, and that they're working on stuff, hopefully, that's really meaningful to the business.
Okay. Thank you guys for the Q&A. We got a second question. What's the hardest thing about finding talent? How do you find amazing talent?
Can I give people a tip on this one? Because there's it's such a big answer. Like there's so many ways to go with that question. Here's my tip. It's going to take you longer to find really great talent than you think it will. It's time intense. That's all. You're going hunting for people. They're not coming to you.
Mike, do you have anything on finding talent?
I would just say, like, most people, I think you got to be able to define what great talent is. Like, that it's like saying, I want a great spouse. Okay, but what does that mean to you? Because, like, there's a lot of different characteristics that you could imply by that. And if you take 10 different people, they might have 10 very different lists of what a quote unquote great spouse is. So for your organization, what would make someone a great fit? And a great talent for Ridge would probably not be a great talent for Simple Modern, because we have different cultures and we work on different products and we have different sales strategies or whatever. So actually, like, it's just a first principles thing. First, you're not going to be able to recruit and hire and retain great talent unless you have a really clear definition of what that is. Work with your leadership group to have a clear understanding of, like, in our organization, what is a great fit? What does a great producer look like? What are the characteristics they have? Then you at least know, okay, here's what we're looking for. And that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. And this kind of goes to the first point where it's like, if you don't know what people are doing, are you hiring soldiers or generals, right? Like a great talent at Ridge is generals, where they can lead teams, they can get stuff done, they have autonomy, right? And I don't know what people are doing, but I hope it's high value because I'm setting those goals. Hey, this is where we want the business to go, and this is how you measure the success. The last question, okay, every week, come to the Operators Podcast, we're going to do 3 Q&As. If you want your Q&A in, you can join E-commerce Fuel, and you can post it in there, or you can comment below. The last question is, what are some of the areas of margin expansion that most 8-figure brands have yet to fully tap into? How can you guys get margins up?
I'll give you a good one on Lomi that was like pretty meaningful for us.
Please.
Box engineering, and specifically optimizing to containers out of China. So like, how do you get more product on a single container? For us, the product is large. So like really designing the packaging and going after like small and light, and how do we get the most on a container? That actually had like, I think at one point we dropped cost per unit by like $13, $13.50 or something like that. Just by going after the package.
Mike, you're doing that right now, removing all the cool foil.
Well, I mean, I think it's both. Like, as an example, I don't know at what point we started doing this, but it's like Amazon had shipping thresholds. They had these kind of, dimensions that if you were under it, I remember there was a point where it's like, if we were under this dimension, it was $368. If you were over it, it was $415 in shipping. And so and we started saying like, well, we're going to be under that. And so like we can save whatever, 50 cents a unit on fulfillment. And then I think there's some strategies. There's some strategies of supply chain and logistics that are other places. Like there's a lot of things that scale affords that you can take on. Like, for example, with Walmart right now with our fulfillment, we are at a scale and we're doing our own fulfillment where we're part of what they call a pallet program, where we literally just, usually the way it works, they send you a PO and you have to kind of build this elaborate PO and then they come and pick it up. The pallet program is kind of like, they're just like, we want these things. And you're like, okay, here's a bunch of pallets. And then they just throw them on a truck and they take care of everything. And our efficiency goes way up. And you will unlock efficiency in logistics. But like the kind of the general principle I've learned is that almost all of the money saving things, like all of the tactics, strategies you can do here, they all make sense at some scale. And probably the key is understanding at what scale do different tactics start to make sense. Like at some scale, it probably makes sense to have a general counsel that helps you to like minimize tariffs and to keep down your legal costs. That expands margin. At what point is that you're big enough that it makes sense to have that versus just paying, the ambulance chasers that sue you because, somebody couldn't use a part of your website because of ADA, in whatever, Hawaii. So like, I think that's probably like what I've learned is there's a lot of pieces of the business and that you gradually get good return on investment. But the key is understanding like what scale do we have to be to make that investment. So they're not particularly mysterious, but I do think we said several of them here. I think the value engineering and logistics piece is one of the places where there's dimes and quarters to be saved, but they only make sense if you're selling a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're doing 8 figures, don't confuse margin with cash, right? So like this is one of those things where you can beat up your supplier, but better terms probably make your life way easier, right? Like wouldn't you rather get free money from your supplier as loans and in exchange for $1 per unit? And then if you really want to cut costs, multiple nodes really helps. Negotiating your own USPS costs, the cost to ship a box. If there's one thing in it or two things in it, the cost to ship it doesn't go up that much. So really trying to get people to add any other thing to their order, right? Like do not ship single orders, do not ship split shipments. Like probably worth the investment of customer service to be like, hey, we're gonna wait an extra 5 days to ship your thing because we're gonna receive it and we're not gonna do a split shipment. Like also turning off international shipments. Like people always are like, no, I want to serve every country. They click that in Shopify.
Yeah, and that's a disaster.
Do not do that.
You want to spend $85 to ship to Mozambique? Like, yeah, you don't want to do that. So anyway, guys.
Another one, Sean, that we didn't say is just making your business bankable is one of the easiest ways to like actually increase your margins. Like when you're working with JP Morgan or whatever, and you're factoring receivables at like 3% or whatever we're factoring it, that's like a heck of a lot better than the other options in market. But you have to do some real work to make your business attractive to banks. And there've been a couple of really quickly growing brands that I've been working with recently. And this has been one of my biggest pieces of advice to them is like, hey, get with one of the big partners and make your business really attractive to them from how it's presented, balance sheet, everything else. So I think when you get to 8 figures, you can start to at least think about being a bankable business.
Undoubtedly. All right, guys. Action-packed, over an hour of e-commerce content punching you in the face. We want to thank Fulfill, Northbeam, Ceres Analytics, Rich Panel, and Postscript. 5 softwares we're all going to be using this Q4. We hope you have a great Q4. I know it's August or late July when you listen to this, but listen to it again in October. Then listen to it again in November, right? Get the listeners up. We have cool content coming out every single week. We have a e-commerce fuel forum. You can comment below. You can like, subscribe, share. You can hang out with me and Matt IRL next year at the Calgary Stampede. So thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks for being here. I'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye.